Hey, welcome back to my channel. Well, our channel apparently. There have been
so many times
where I was perusing the Sephora site and I had the Natasha Glam palette in my cart. I almost hit checkout, but in the back of my head there was something telling me to wait. There's some sort of hope, some sort of dream, some sort of inkling, if you will, telling me that Alter Ego was going to recreate the Glam palette, and lo and behold, that day has come, and here it is.
He looks glorious.
So long story short, there was an issue with shipping and I didn't actually receive my palette for about 3 weeks after the date I purchased it. So anyway, I posted on my Instagram a poll and asked you guys if you would rather see me do a first impression tutorial review on this palette, or if you'd rather see a 4 or 5 look tutorial using this palette alone, and you guys wanted to see the 4 or 5 tutorials using this palette. And so that's what I've done. That's what I have to share with you today, and I'm so excited. I really enjoyed filming this video. Not only did I enjoy the challenge, the artistic challenge of creating multiple looks using this palette alone, but of course I love makeup and I love doing makeup, and so creating and filming tutorials is so much fun for me. So I would love to hear your feedback down below, what you think of this video, if you enjoyed watching, if you found it helpful, because I would be more than happy to do more videos like this, doing either, multiple looks using one palette, or maybe creating a video where I do, 4 or 5 different red looks or 4 or 5 different yellow looks, different color stories. So let me know your thoughts down below. So I've created 4 different looks using this palette. I tried to keep 2 of them a little bit more subtle, a little bit more daytime wear, and the other 2 are a little bit more smokier, a little bit more dramatic. I will include timestamps in the description box below so that you can easily skip around to the different looks. The tutorials are also only of my eye looks, so I will include the other makeup that I am wearing in the description box below in case you're interested. All that being said, I hope you enjoy the looks I've created. Let me know all your thoughts down below, and let me know if you recreate any of them. I'm going to start by taking the shade Vanish on an eyeshadow blender brush, and I'm just going to run that through my crease. Next, I'm going to take the shade Shade, and using an eyeshadow applicator, I'm going to pack that shade all over my lid. Unpopular opinion, but I actually love eyeshadow applicators. They're small enough to get in all the right spots, and they pack on a lot of shadow at one time. Next, I'm taking the blender brush that I was previously using to blend out my crease once more. I usually do this between every step of my eyeshadow application just to ensure there's no harsh lines. You'll see me repeat this step multiple times throughout this video. I try not to make it too repetitive, but I do think it's really important because a huge part of creating an eyeshadow look is the art of the blend, and I feel like that gets overlooked in a lot of tutorials. Next, I'm taking my one size point made eyeliner in the shade Bestie Brown. I'm going to start by putting this in my upper waterline, and then one eye at a time I'm going to line my upper lash line. The one size point made eyeliners are great because once they dry down, they're there until you wash your face. They won't smudge, they won't run, they're fantastic. However, the only con with them is that you have a very short window before it dries down. So if you're going for a smokier look like we are here, your window to smudge the liner out is very short. It's very malleable when you put the eyeliner on your lid, but you want to work quickly before it dries down, so that's why I only like to do one eye at a time. You don't need to use the one size point made eyeliners. They are a little bit more on the expensive side. The drugstore sells really great gel liners. Maybelline comes to mind, as well as Pixie, Essence, and LA Girl. Next, I'm going to re-dip my eyeshadow applicator in the shade Shade and just run that over my lid just to soften the eyeliner a bit and to smoke out the look. Next, I'm going to curl my lashes and apply my Tarte Maneater mascara. I like to blink every time I run the wand through my lashes because I feel that best distributes product through the length of my lashes. Since we're going for a softer smoky eye, I want to dramatize my lashes just a bit, so I'm focusing on applying more product on the outer portion of my lashes, as you can see here. Next, I'm going to apply a little bit of mascara on my lower lashes, but because we want to keep this look soft, I don't want to apply mascara to the lengths of my lower lashes. I don't know about you, but I have somewhat longer lower lashes, and when I apply mascara to the lengths of them, they start to look a little bit spidery and unattractive, and so I've developed something I call the kiss method. I take my mascara wand and just lightly touch the roots of my lower lashes, sort of kissing my lower lash line. And I find that that applies just the right amount of product, just the right amount of length to darken my lashes without making the look too dramatic or too spidery. Next, I'm gonna go back in with the shade Shade on an eyeshadow applicator and pat that over my lid once more just to cover up any mascara markings. I'm gonna take my original blender brush and run that through my crease once more. This time I'm also gonna bring it along my lower lash line just to add a little bit of smokiness down there. Of course, wait until your mascara is dry to do this, otherwise you're gonna create a mascara disaster. Next, I'm going to take the shade Disguise and I'm going to use a flat-headed concealer brush to apply just a little bit along my brow bone. You don't have to do this, but since this look was completely matte, I just couldn't help myself. I had to add a little bit of shimmer, so feel free to skip this step if you'd like. Lastly, I'm going to take my Essence Extreme Lasting eyeliner in the shade Silky Nude and apply that to my lower waterline just to brighten my eyes and to finalize the look. And there we have it. We have a subtle smoky eye. For this look, I'm going to be creating a defined wing, and to do this, I always use tape. So what I do is I use my nose as a guide. I will take the tip of my nose and line it up with the outer corner of my eye and place the tape at an angle there. It usually takes me a few times to get the tape placed just right and even on both sides, so take your time with this step. I'm going to start by taking the shade Risk on a blender brush and packing that all over my lid and into my crease. Next, using a clean blender brush, I'm going to dip it in the shade Umbra and the shade Fog, and I'm going to start packing that along the outer portion of my eyelid. Again, remember the tape is there as a guard, so don't be afraid to run the shadow along the tape to really define the shape along the outer corner of the eye. Once it's as deep as I want, I'm going to go back to my previous blender brush that I used with the shade Risk and dust that over my crease just to soften the look and ensure there's no harsh lines. Next, I'm using a pigment packer brush. I'm going to start by spraying my brush with setting spray, and then I'm going to dip it in the shade Shroud. I'm doing this because I want the pigment, the color, to be really intense and metallic. If you don't want your look to be as intense and metallic, you can just apply the shadow dry. And I'm going to start packing that along the outer third of my eyelid. Next, I'm going back to the blender brush that I was using with Umbra and Fog, and I'm going to run that over the pigment that I just laid down, again, just to smoke out the look and ensure there's no harsh lines. For this look, I really wanted to keep the inner corners of my eye bright, and I was finding that the shade Risk was fading and wasn't as bright as I wanted, but I took my pinky finger and dipped it in the shade Risk and patted that on the inner corner of my eye just to brighten the area up again. Next, I'm taking my Maybelline Tattoo Studio eyeliner in the shade Brown, and I'm going to run that along the outer edge of my eye, right along the tape, to create a wing. Next, I'm taking a fine flathead detailer brush and dipping it in the shade Umbra, and I'm going to run that along the eyeliner that I laid down just to soften it and to smoke it out a bit. Next, I'm going back in with my pigment packer brush with the shade Shroud and patting that right on top of the eyeliner just to re-intensify that shade because I want to keep it ultra metallic. Now I'm going to curl my lashes and apply my Maneater mascara. For this look, I really wanted my lashes to look long and flirty, so I really focused on placing mascara on the outer corner of my lashes. If you're anything like me and you always seem to get mascara smudges on your lids, what you can do is you can take a spoolie. I'm just using the spoolie on my e.l.f. eyebrow pencil, and I'm just gonna run the spoolie over the mascara markings, and that's gonna take the mascara off without disrupting my eyeshadow. Now for the great reveal, I'm gonna take the tape off. As you can see, I have a major mess going on. That's okay, we're gonna clean that up. I'm gonna start by taking a clean brush and just try to dust off as much loose powder as I can. I actually find that the Alter Ego shadow formula is quite powdery. Next, I'm going to take my Undone Beauty concealer palette and a foundation brush and just apply my concealer as normal, but I'm also going to use my concealer to really define the outer corner of my eye and to clean up any makeup mess that I've made. Yet next, I'm using a foundation brush just to blend everything in as I normally would with my concealer. I'm going to take my Maybelline eyeliner once more, and I'm going to connect my wing to my lower lash line. I want to keep my lower lash line open and bright, so I'm only placing eyeliner in the outer corner of my eye. Next, I'm going back in with the flathead eyeshadow brush that we're using with the shade Umbra, and I'm going to use that to smoke out my lower liner, just like we did with the top liner. I cleaned off that same brush, and now I'm going in with the shade Risk, and I'm going to dust that along the lower lash line again because I want that to be open and bright. Next, I'm going to apply mascara on my lower lash line using my kiss technique I talked about in the previous look, where I'm just going to gently kiss my lash line with the mascara wand. I was going to be done with the look here, but like I said, I really wanted the inner corner of my lid to be bright, and it just wasn't quite as bright as I was wanting. So I dabbed my pinky in my Undone Beauty concealer. I'm going to place that on the inner corner of my eye, and that's going to act as a primer to really intensify the shade I'm going to lay on top. So again, I'm going to take my pinky and I'm going to dab it in the shade Risk and dab that right on top of the concealer I just laid down. Next, I'm taking my Lauren Conrad liquid liner and I'm going to do a bit of a wing on the outer corner. I wanted just a little bit more vibrancy and metallicness in this look, so I dipped my finger in the shade Eclipse and I'm just going to pat that on the center of my eyelid. Lastly, I'm taking my Essence Extreme Lasting Eyeliner Pencil in the shade Silky Nude. I'm going to line my lower waterline to make my eyes pop. And that completes this look. We have a glam smoky eye. I'm going to start by taking the shade Vanish and using a fluffy blender brush, I'm going to brush that along my crease and along my lower lash line. Next, using an eyeshadow applicator, I'm going to take the shade Zeal and pat that all over my eyelids. The color wasn't as vibrant and metallic as I was hoping for, so using my NYX setting spray, I wet to my eyeshadow applicator, dipped it back in the shade Zeal, and that really made the color pop. You of course don't have to do this if you're not looking for as much vibrancy. You could also use water if you don't have setting spray. I then went back to my blender brush and sweeped that across my crease to ensure there's no harsh lines. Then using a new blender brush, I dipped that in the shade Shade and ran that on the outer corner of my eye and along my lower lash line, just on the outer third of the lower lash line. I then took my Pixie Endless Silky Eye Pen in the shade Black Caviar and ran that along my top and bottom lash line, just on the outer third of my eye. The thing with the Pixie eyeliners is they're very malleable. You have a lot of working time to really smudge and blend out the color. For that reason, I don't always prefer them, but when I'm creating a smoky eye, they work perfectly. Because again, like I said, you have a lot of time to really work with the liner and blend it out as much as you want. Once I had my outer corner as deep and as smoky as I wanted, I used my same Pixie eyeliner and I then used my nose as a guide and created more of a wing. I then went back to my blender brush I was using with the shade Shade and lightly tapped that onto the eyeliner I just laid down just to soften it and to smoke it out a bit. I then took my Morphe M508 brush and dipped it in the shade Umbra and I ran it across the eyeliner that I just laid down, again because I want it to be really soft but really smoky, really edgy looking. I'm usually not particular and specific about the brushes I use, but the Morphe M508 brush is the perfect width, the perfect density for really getting in close to your lash line for creating a smoky eyeliner effect. I then went back to my very first blender brush I was using with the shade Vanish, again ran that through my crease and along my lower lash line, again just to ensure there's no harsh lines and everything is well blended. I'm then going back to my eyeshadow applicator I used with the shade Zeal and I'm going to pat that on the center of my eyelid and I'm really going to pack it in the inner corner of my eye because I want that part to be really metallic, really icy looking. Again, this is why I like the eyeshadow applicator. It's the perfect size to really get precisely in the inner corners to pack on shadow. I then curled my lashes and used my IT Cosmetics Superhero Mascara. Lastly, I'm taking my Essence Extreme Lasting Eyeliner in the shade Silky Nude and I'm going to line my lower waterline. And there we have it. We have a cool toned bronze eye. I'm going to start by taking my fluffy blender brush and applying the shade Vanish across my crease. Then using an eyeshadow applicator, I'm going to apply the shade Desire all over my eyelids. The shade wasn't as dark as I was wanting, so I decided to take my eyeshadow applicator and use the shade Fog and run that all over my eyelids instead. I'm then going to take my e.l.f. Kohl eyeliner and use that first to line my upper waterline. And then I'm going to carefully pull my eyelid taut and line my lash line. I'm then going to use my e.l.f. smudge brush to smudge out the liner I just laid across my lash line. I'm going to smudge it out across my entire upper lash line because I want it to be really smoky. Going back in with the eyeshadow applicator I used with the shade Fog, I'm just going to lightly pat that on top of the eyeliner I laid down. And I'm also going to pack more of that color on the inner corners of my eye. Going back to my blender brush, I'm going to run that through my crease just to ensure there's no harsh lines. Next, I'm going to take my e.l.f. No Budge Shadow Stick in the shade Rose Gold, and I'm going to apply that just on the center of both of my eyelids. I'm using this primarily as a tacky base for the next step that we're about to do. If you don't have this specific shadow stick, you could also use a glitter glue or even your concealer, anything with a tacky base. I just prefer this because it's close to the color that we're going to be going in with next. Next, using my pinky, I'm going to dab that in the shade Tempt and pat that right on top of the shadow stick I just laid down. Again, like I said, the shadow stick is acting as a sticky base to really make this color pop. Next, using my Real Techniques Instapop shade brush, I'm just going to lightly tap that along the edges of the shade Tempt we just laid down, just to ensure everything looks well blended. Next, I'm going to curl my lashes and use my Tarte Maneater mascara. Because we're going for a very sultry, smoky look, I want to keep my lower lids bright, so I'm using my Undone Beauty Conceal to Reveal Concealer palette and applying my concealer as usual, but I'm also bringing it up close to my lower lash line, again, just to make the area extra bright. Next, using a concealer brush, I'm going to dip that in my concealer just a little bit, and I'm going to dab that on the inner corners of my eye. I love this concealer, of course, for concealing, but I also love the brightening effect it has. Next, using a small, flat blender brush, I'm going to take the shade Risk, and I'm going to very carefully dust that along my lower lash line. I'm then going to take a blender brush and also dip that in the shade Risk and run that along my crease. I really like the effect this color has on my eyes. It adds a bit of smokiness but still keeps things bright. Next, going in with my e.l.f. Kohl liner, I'm going to line my lower and upper waterline. The thing with the e.l.f. Kohl liner is it's not super pigmented, it's not ultra black, but it's very malleable. I love how thick the pencil is for creating a smoky eye look like this. Next, using my Lauren Conrad liquid liner, I'm going to create a wing. Lastly, I'm going to take my Morphe M508 brush and dip that in the shade Umbra, and I'm going to pat that on top of the liquid liner I just laid down just to soften it and make it look really smoky. And there we have it. We have a sultry night out look.